Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to Hillhurst United Church. My name is John Pentland, one of the ministers here at Hillhurst United Church. We welcome about 100 folks here in this room and several hundred who are joining us online from across the country and around the world. It's a warm evening here in Calgary. I'll say it again, it's a warm evening here in Calgary. And we've given an opportunity for you to grab some refreshments now. Our program will be 45 minutes to an hour, and then again, refreshments afterwards. Hillhurst United Church has a banner up front that says, whoever you are, wherever you're at, join us on the journey. And we give thanks that you have joined us this evening for the Bill Phipps Foundation kickoff. Our 4 practices are hospitality. We believe you got to eat and drink together. And it's in the sharing of our stories and who we are that we are deepened and enriched. The second practice here is spirituality. We recognize that not all people are religious, but all people are soulful, spiritual people. How do we encourage the spiritual life of others? Social justice. If church only stays in the sanctuary, it's not living transformation in the world. We send people out into the world to take what we say and sing and experience out to transform the world. And our 4th practice is risk. We try to risk, make mistakes, and try again. Those are our practices. We're also an affirming church. You'll see to my right our affirming banner. We've been an affirming church for 15 years and have a strong community of faith that says you belong here, whoever you are, regardless of age, stage, sexual orientation, economic status, religious or non-religious. You belong here, and we seek to live a way that invites and tells people they belong. And so we hope if this is your first time in our building tonight, you are in the right place and you belong. So we welcome our friends online and around the world, in particular people from Hong Kong and Switzerland and the Philippines and England and coast to coast to coast in Canada, from Ontario, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and Yellowknife. And you see before us a beautiful canoe. One of Bill's favorite pastimes was being on the water in the canoe, either on his own or with Carolyn. And we give thanks to David, who offered this canoe with this symbol, which is so rich and speaks about the life of Bill Phipps. We also want to thank this evening, as we begin, Paul Armstrong and David Swan and Yvonne Spies for arranging the refreshments that will be served afterwards, and to Paul and Ted Reeve, who will speak later, and the United Churches Canada's Foundation for instigating a legacy fund in Bill's memory. And so as we begin this evening, I would like to invite Reverend Tony Snow to come forward. Bill was moved and delighted when Tony came on staff to give leadership at Hillhurst United Church. Bill had great respect for Tony, for John Snow, his brother, and indeed the Snow family. Tony is a member of the Stoney Nakoda First Nation. He works as an Indigenous minister in the United Church of Canada's Chinook region, and he is a traditional knowledge keeper and ordained minister in the United Church. So welcome, Tony Snow.
Thank you so much. I will be offering the land acknowledgement. Should probably stand there so people can see. Here for us today, a rich tradition. Very honored to be here in our work on reserve. I'm just going to grab this. In our work on reserve, we are often tasked with doing memorials, and there is a time of mourning, there's a time of remembering, there's a time of honoring in the work that we do, to remember those that have guided us, those that have brought us to new realizations, and Bill is one of those people. Our brother Bill was a strong voice in the community, a strong voice across the world. The things that he did and the joys that he brought to people through justice, through awareness, through understanding, were things that live on in the legacy that we will see in this fund and in the support it gives to our community. So we are very thankful for that work. As we gather on this land, this sacred space that in our Stoney culture we call Ina Makoche, here on this Turtle Island we call Yethka Makoche, all part of one grand earth all part of one being and one way of being. And as we gather, we offer our prayer to light a smudge, to carry our words to the Creator, to know our heart. And so let us pray. Creator God, you are our guide. You are with us when tragedy befalls us, when we seek your guidance, when we seek your benevolence in our lives. We know that your presence is a blessing, and your presence lives within us and all others that we meet. And so as we gather at this time to remember our brother Bill, the Right Reverend Bill Phipps, we know that there is much work that he tasked for us to do that we must complete in order to hand off a better world to the next generation. And so we give thanks for his presence here today in our hearts, and know that you are guiding us in this space. Jesus Christ, Amen. The land acknowledgement is speaking into history, speaking of a context that we came from and where we are going. The land acknowledgement is a way of grounding ourselves in a practice, in a way of remembering who we are because of those that have brought us to this space and how we are leading into a future for others to benefit, to flourish, to know God, to know the creation, and to know balance in the world, that they might also flourish and be well. And so here in this land, the land of the Yarhe Nakota, the land of the Nitsitapi, the land of the Tsuut'ina, land of the Métis people, we are one under creation. We are gathered here in benevolent hope for a better future from those trials and challenges that were not all good in our past. We look forward to a better future in light of the work of our brother Bill and the work that we continue to carry on. Amen.
Thank you, Tony. I would invite Gail Sobat and Jeff McMaster to come forward. Jeff is a writer, editor, and award-winning videographer who works at the University of Alberta. Music is his passion and love, and he's been performing for 2 decades, many times for Bill and Carolyn. His partner, Gail, is an award-winning author, founder of Youth Write, a writing camp for teens, and the founder of the Spoken Word Youth Choir. Welcome.
So we thought a lot about the songs to sing for today, and for Bill and for Carolyn.
Yeah, this is a song by James Taylor about stepping back into the light after a dark night of the soul. And I think it's partly what this occasion today is about as we honor Bill's legacy and the new life that will spring from that legacy. It's called Another Day. Wake up, Susie, put your shoes on, walk with me into this light. Oh, finally this morning, I'm feeling whole again. It was a hell of a night, just to be with you by my side, just to have you near. In my sight, just to walk a while in this light, just to know that life goes on. Wake up, Susie, put your shoes on, walk with me into the night has gone, life goes on, another dawn is breaking. Turn and face the sun, one by one, the world outside is waking. Morning light has driven away all the shadows that hide your way. And night has given away to the promise of another day, another day, another chance that we may finally find our way. Another day, the sun has begun to melt all our fears away. Another day, another day. Wake up, Susie, put your shoes on, walk with me into this light.
They will be back. We are here this evening to gather and raise money for the Bill Phipps Legacy Fund. Through the United Church of Canada Foundation, the Very Reverend Dr. Bill Phipps Legacy Fund will provide funds for Indigenous, Inuit, and Métis students studying social or ecological justice, assisting leadership development and innovation and sustainability within the United Church of Canada and other community organizations. So one thing I know about Bill Phipps was he was incredibly generous to many different organizations across the country and around the world. And I checked with his wife, Carolyn, and here are just a few that Bill donated to, just to guilt you along the way here. The local United Church, Hillhurst United Church, the Mission and Service Fund of the United Church, Project Plowshares, Greenpeace, the Canadian Canoe Museum, the Canadian Human Rights Museum in Winnipeg, the Centre for Policy Alternatives, the New Democratic Party, Kairos, the Canadian Wilderness Society, the Alberta Wilderness Society, Faith in the Common Good, Calgary Alliance for the Common Good, and Eco-Commoning. Isn't that incredible? The generosity of Bill and Carolyn. These are just to name a few. I would not want to do Bill's tax reform. But Bill, as you remember, always said, give your money and pay your taxes with joy. And so we encourage you tonight to think about the donation you would like to make, either here at the front or on the line at the back or to Hillhurst United Church so that you get a tax receipt through us. We don't want anything to limit your ability to give to this great fund. Now, as we move through a variety of speakers this evening, I'm totally aware that there are many people who would like to speak, and I'm going to give you an opportunity. Did you know that today was Bill Phipps' 81st birthday? Yeah, Bill would have been 81 today. Now, in my home, we have something of a tradition when we gather for birthdays. We gather around the table, and then before we cut the cake, we go around the table, and each person must say something that they appreciate about the person whose birthday it is. And so I thought I would ask you to meet the people around you in a group of 2 or 3. If you don't like the people you're with, get up and move. But here's the question. What did you appreciate about Bill Phipps? An opportunity for you to say something. It could be his preaching or his protesting, his love of baseball, being out in a canoe. What did you appreciate about Bill Phipps? You have 2 minutes to meet the people beside you. What's something you appreciated about Bill Phipps? Use this time. We know you'll have opportunity tonight, and I hope the people who are joining us online will type in the chat what you appreciated about Bill Phipps. This opportunity on birthdays to take a moment to say to the person what you value is such a great tradition in our family. Even though the kids say they don't like it, they actually look forward to it. So we're remembering and appreciating Bill Phipps. Bill had many ball caps, and I see one here, a Toronto Maple Leaf one. And one of the things I loved about Bill when he retired is to be at the front and see him coming into church late and seeing a baseball cap pop along the back of the church, whether it was a Blue Jays hat or a Leafs hat. There he was, happy as could be, under a hat in a coat, shuffling in his jeans to church. Hats. For me, I appreciated that generous spirit of Bill's, but when I think about Bill, I think of three particular hats that he wore and wore so well. Yes, it was the Blue Jays or the Leafs, but Bill wore these three key hats. Bill wore a prophetic hat. He was a modern-day prophet, whether it was in protests or marches or rallies, writing letters to the editor or articles in the paper, preaching sermons based on the social gospel, the gospel of justice. Bill held the newspaper in one hand and the Bible, or one of his 10 magazine subscriptions, in the other. And he spoke truth, Bible in one hand, newspaper in the other. Bill spoke truth to power with a prophetic voice, and he wore a prophetic hat. The second hat Bill wore was what I call the priestly hat. He took his role seriously as a priest. He baptized my daughter Charlotte in this sanctuary. He held many other children and adults in his arms and hands through the ritual of baptism. Bill led families in times of grief and led funerals. He broke bread at the Eucharist, at the table, and celebrated many weddings, many couples over the years. He was a priest who took his role seriously and with great humor and thoughtfulness. He was a great priest to many inside the church and outside the church, and he wore his priestly hat boldly. The third hat that Bill wore was what I call the pastoral hat. Bill was at his heart a pastor, and he cared for all people. I miss Bill in particular on Sundays when, after church, he would meet me at the back and tell me what I should have preached. And then he would suddenly turn and he would get that thing, and perhaps you know this about Bill. He would stop and turn and look you right in the eye, and he would pat me on the chest, and then he would say, "And how are you?" And he meant it. He wanted to hear, "How are you?" And with the intensity of his bright, sparkling blue eyes, he listened to me and offered compassion or a hug or a word of wisdom, just like he might have done that to you. Bill had a soft heart, and he was a pastor to many people, and he wore the pastoral hat. So Bill wore, yes, ball caps, but the prophetic, priestly, and pastor hat were his to live. And so I appreciate that he wore these hats on his heart and on his sleeve, and was a great gift to Canada and to the global church community. He was a pastor, priest, and prophet, and we celebrate and honor him and the legacy that will live on in this fund. Bill was a wonderful husband, father, grandfather, and friend who walked the earth with gentleness and conviction. And for this, we are deeply thankful. I'll invite Gail and Jeff back for a song.
We were just sharing with the people behind us that Bill and Carolyn are our family, and so very dear to us. The first time I heard Bill speak, I was gobsmacked. I was mesmerized, and I saw someone who walked the talk, and Jeff and I have often talked about that. So he became an inspiration to my life. That's the wrong song, but that's okay. No, we're doing mine next. So he's very sweet, but I'm the boss.
All right.
So I'm giving the intro to this song. So as you'll see by the words, Bill inspired me, and so many more. And the youth I work with, I think in so many ways, I feel Bill and Carolyn's spirit behind me all the time. About 1,000 years ago, when I was very young, my heart beat like the waves beneath the never-changing sun. My blood ran thick with promise, I was tender to the bone, but now I'm Evangeline, made of stone. This is your one and only life. What will you do? This is your one and only life. What will you do? Now the meteors of August, they fly all through my hair. The day will come when I will rise to find my eye less fair. And this body scorched by beauty, and these hands I left unplayed. What was I waiting for? So afraid. This is your one and only life. What will you do? This is your one and only life. What will you do? You can dream, you can imagine, you can simply hope and pray. You can save yourself for glory, you can wait till judgment day. You can hold out till you stand a breath away from heaven's gate. Your day of redemption will come too late. This is your one and only life. What will you do? This is your one and only life. What will you do? This is your one, your wild, your precious, one and only life. Your one and only life.
Thank you. I'm going to invite Julie Herdlicka up. Julie worked with Bill on Interfaith and Peace Project and as a political and human rights activist. Bill happily went door knocking for Julie more than once Julie has served on the Calgary School Board and currently works as an implementation coach at Youth Hub Alberta. Julia.
I'm just going to take a minute and take this in and take the beautiful music in. Thank you so much for that. Good afternoon, everyone. It's an honor to be here with you this afternoon to celebrate Bill and the launch of the Bill Phipps Fund. Paul, Ted, and Carolyn, and all the staff and volunteers at Hillhurst, thank you for all your work in bringing this together. As I prepared for today, I went online and saw some of the amazing videos created by Carolyn and Ted and Bill that really celebrated this beautiful human over the last few years of his life. I cried, I giggled. He always made me giggle. And I was reminded over and over again just how much I loved him. I just want to say thank you to Carolyn and to Ted for sharing Bill in the world in such a remarkable way. I met Bill and Carolyn over 20 years ago. We worked together in the peace movement. I worked with Ted and Bill on Faith in the Common Good. And Bill always supported my work at the Parkland Institute, or Public Interest Alberta, the school board, and beyond. Bill was on the front lines of every issue under the sun, as you all know. Everything was interconnected. I guess that's how he could keep up with all of my adventures. He saw the threads where most couldn't. One of the first times that I met Bill, he was doing a sermon at Parkdale United Church, and I was mesmerized. Seeing a religious leader speak with the same values and principles and passion that I had about human rights and social justice was inspiring, and it was comforting at the same time. He brought the message of the social gospel to the pulpit, but he also brought it to the streets and to protests and debates and to politics. He welcomed me into his community. He showed me how to trust others, something that had been ruptured in me. He helped me see all people, even the ones that I disagreed with, as human beings. He taught me to be brave and to be fearless and to be honest. He taught me that what you believe matters. How you're treated and how you treat others matters, and community matters. But most of all, he taught me that love matters. Recently, I asked a few people on social media, how would you describe Bill in one word? And I wanted to share just a few of the responses. Inspiring, courageous, kind-hearted, humble, sage, very perceptive, thoughtful and gracious, change maker, prophetic, joyful, playful, welcoming and modest, authentic, reconciliation, unwavering, fully human and fully alive. All of us are born into relationship. All of us come from the womb where we rely on another to care and nurture us. Relationship is part of our DNA as a human being. For thousands of years, we've needed relationships in order to survive and to eat, to fight off disease, to have joy, and progress as a species. More and more these days, as we make our way through life, that innate way of being in relationship is being chipped away at. Through experiences of abuse and trauma, individualism and consumerism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia, and racism. This leads to separation, and the separation makes us vulnerable and leaves us feeling helpless. And Bill knew this. He talked about it all the time. His solution was his unwavering belief in the common good. Heck, he and Ted felt so strongly about it, they even named an organization after it, Faith in the Common Good. He lived it. He was connected with so many individuals and organizations. Honestly, it was really difficult to keep up with all he had going on. Everyone knew Bill, and Bill was energized by connection. He supported every issue because every issue in his eyes was connected. Bill would often speak about looking to Indigenous cultures in understanding and living the common good. Democracy, decision-making, sharing, and celebrating cultural practices together, connection and respect for the earth. These are the ties that bind us. Chief Seattle said, "Humankind was not woven the web of life. We are but one thread within it. Whatever we do to the web, we do to ourselves. All things are bound together. All things connect." By investing in the Bill Phipps Legacy Fund, you're supporting the ideas that he was passionate about. These ideas he believed are key to unlocking the challenges our society is facing. Challenges such as truth and reconciliation. Through your support of the fund, First Nation and Métis youth studying social and ecological justice will be supported to follow their path. The fund will also raise dollars to invest in leadership development in the United Church based on Bill's social and ecological justice leadership style. Investing in this fund means keeping Bill's legacy alive for future generations. I think that's pretty cool. I want to end this afternoon with a poem by Command Kajuri. They want us to be afraid. They want us to be afraid of leaving our homes. They want us to barricade our doors and hide our children. Their aim is to make us fear life itself. They want us to hate. They want us to hate the other. They want us to practice aggression and perfect antagonism. Their aim is to divide us all. They want us to be inhuman. They want us to throw out our kindness. They want us to bury our hope and our love. Their aim is to take all our light. They think their bricked walls will separate us. They think their damn bombs will defeat us. They are so ignorant. They don't understand that my soul and your soul are friends. They are so ignorant, they don't understand that when they cut you, I bleed. They are so ignorant that they don't understand that we will never be afraid, that we will never hate, and we will never be silent, for life is ours. Thank you.
Okay, is it my turn now? Yeah. We were just remarking in our exchange earlier about Bill, how many times we laughed together, and what a deep sense of irony that he had about the world. So this is one of his favorite Bruce Cockburn songs. It's called Laughter, and it struck me that I think Bill would love it if you helped us on the chorus. It's pretty simple. It's repeat after me. Ha ha ha. Ha 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 ha. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm screwing it up already. You'll get it. As we come to it, you'll figure it out. You've heard it before.
You probably know it.
Probably know it. I laugh for the way my life has gone. I laugh for the love of a friend. I laugh for the look in the eyes of the world, the love that will never end. Ha ha, 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 ha. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Ha, 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 ha.
You sound beautiful.
Let's hear a laugh for the man of the world who thinks he can make things work. Tried to build a new Jerusalem and ended up with New York. Ha, 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 ha. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Ha, 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 ha. Laugh for the sun red balling through the thermal inversion haze. A laugh for the nuclear good time boys, numbering all our days. Ha, 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 ha. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Ha, ha, ha. A laugh for the newsprint nightmare, a world that never was, where all the questions are all why and the answers are all because. Ah, 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 ah. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Ah, 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 ah. A laugh for the dog barking at our heels, they don't know where we've been. Laugh for the dirty window pane, hiding the love within. Ha, 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 ha. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Ha, ha, ha. Tapping our feet to an ancient tune, a laugh for time gone by. A laugh for me and Kitty in the delivery room, waiting for the child's first cry. Ha, 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 ha. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Ha, ha, ha.
Repeat that.
Ha, 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 ha. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Thank you to the Bill Phipps Choir.
Thank you. I'm going to invite Ted Reeve to come up. Ted was Bill's colleague for 25 years, working on national projects, including Faith in the Common Good, Faith in the Economy, Greening Sacred Spaces, and Eco-Commoning. If you watched the funeral or were here for the funeral, you would have heard Ted say that they were the traveling Bill and Ted show. They traveled the country with Ted meeting people in churches and town halls and meeting through the media. Ted is the minister at St. Paul's United Church in Orillia, which incidentally will host the funeral for Gordon Lightfoot this coming weekend, where Gordon got his first gig, I'll call it, in the United Church singing. And Ted is the founder of St. Paul's Center in Orillia, so welcome, Ted.
Well, it really is wonderful to be back here with you folks, to be here with Carolyn and to celebrate Bill's life and legacy after a year, to be back in the Hillhurst community and with so many friends. Having worked with Bill for so long, I know so many of you and appreciate how strong and the friendship and the colleague ship of your working together with Bill. So it is wonderful to be back here. And even though I had to burn some carbon to get here, which Bill would have not been happy about, and I got to leave the fray of everybody now frantically getting things organized for the events with Gordon Lightfoot this weekend that will be quite an interesting event as well. But I really wanted to be here and to celebrate the beginning of this legacy fund, an opportunity to carry on the work that Bill and I have been working on for so many years. And so this is an exciting opportunity to launch and carry on that work into the future in two significant ways. Mostly I'll show you a video clip that we did last year just before Bill passed away, but a little intro to the work and how we'll use this legacy fund. Paul initiated the idea around using the fund for Indigenous, Inuit, and Métis students and their education around economic and social and ecological justice, and that's a wonderful tribute to all the work Bill did in regard to reconciliation. The work that we worked on was around what we came to call eco-commoning. This is an outgrowth of the United Church's legacy around the social gospel. The social gospel, 100 years ago, we in the United Church began to champion the idea of a gospel-driven, social democratic view of redistributing wealth in this country and creating universal programs that benefited all people. This is the heart of the social gospel and what we have worked on as a faith community throughout the 20th century. Having just come back from Scandinavia, I realized that we only made it about halfway in terms of our development, and some of those we know have been pushed back, but that vision carries on. In the 21st century, I think we're pulling back and looking at this picture in a whole broad, deeper way of understanding a new symbiotic relationship with the earth and each other. And that new relationship represented in the eco part of eco-commoning, that new symbiotic relationship, commoning representing the best of our human organization through indigenous communities and commons expressions around the world, working on local, fair, equitable, sustainable ways of relating and being community together. So we hold up that vision of eco-commoning as a way of imagining a future for church work and for community development. Over the last couple of years, Bill and I have been gathering small cohorts of leaders to build a trusting relationship with each other so that we can have the courage to explore the challenging issues of the day and to begin the experiments in community and through faith communities to envision a different way of being on this planet in this century. But I want to turn it to Bill and the conversations that we had in a couple of weeks just before he passed away. You'll see in it a picture of him that he looks ravaged by the cancer, but you will recognize his passion and his engagement with both leadership and ministry, and how he holds that vision for us and what I hope is embodied in this legacy fund as we go forward. So, Bill.
You're a friend to controversy. When you were the moderator, you kind of wandered into some controversies that opened some doors.
Well, that's right. I mean, when I became moderator, I wanted my emphasis to be sort of a theme, recovering the social gospel. So, moderator's economy on faith and the economy, and you became the director of that. So we had a combination of someone who knew the history better than anybody, who knew how to organize people, and I had the platform to promote it. And that became a theme. So I was going to have an interview with the Ottawa Citizen, and I thought it was all about economic justice, and it was a great interview, but they focused on my theology. Well, this proverbial hit the fan, and all of a sudden, the leader of a major church in Canada was apparently saying some controversial things about theology, about who Jesus was, about what Jesus represented. Imagine that. And so we got platforms to talk about how, yeah, actually, Jesus was about the social gospel. Jesus was about the marginalized people. Jesus was about economic and political and social systems that oppress people. And so instead of retreating or becoming defensive, we said, hey, we've opened a door, let's take advantage of it. And so we did some very interesting things. And out of that whole experience eventually came faith in the common good, and leading down into where we are now with eco-commoning. But along the way, every aspect of my ministry, becoming executive secretary of the conference and moving from Toronto to Alberta, where I didn't know very much, I thought, I've got to understand Alberta and the Northwest Territories and Indigenous people. The Lubicon people were struggling to be finally included in treaty. We got involved in that. And again, people who wanted that change were encouraged by the churches giving leadership, organizing people to give leadership in that struggle. Going through my time later then as a minister in Calgary and beyond, the Truth and Reconciliation process was underway. Again, trying to give leadership on that absolutely essential aspect of human rights and social justice for and with Indigenous people.
So it seems to be the core of your ministry.
Absolutely.
But your ministry, of course, has carried on beyond the so-called retirement age, and Calgary has continued to invite your response.
Well, it's interesting, that's true. And one of the places is in the little bit of work that I've contributed with all kinds of other people in Calgary on the climate crisis. And I'll never forget this. This is another one that tied together the climate crisis and economic justice with human rights. And that is the work of the Calgary Alliance for the Common Good, who at that point, a couple of years ago, whose public face was an Anglican priest. Again, the church is involved at the center of, and this particular thing is dealing with the climate crisis and dealing with one aspect of economic disparity, which was, I mean, it's a simple thing in a way, bus passes or transit passes for poor people, people who couldn't afford. So again, we've got to look at the connection, in this case, around the climate crisis and economic justice right in our community. And I remember after a number of presentations to City Council, some of the councillors coming up and saying, thank you, we needed that impassioned presentation about how we need to address the climate crisis, housing for people, bus passes, and related things. It's all tied together. Yet again, there were some people who leaders who appreciated the leadership from the churches in addressing these things in the way we were.
You got known as the spiritual guy.
Well, that's right, because I've been involved in this and trying to be a positive voice, and because I have characterized These issues we're talking about, the social gospel, the climate crisis, all of these things that we face in contemporary fashion as, you know, they are political, they are economic, they are scientific questions. Fundamentally, they are also spiritual and ethical questions. And it's our job as faith leaders, as church leaders, to bring that dimension to the heart and center of our social action around these things. That's our job. And what I witnessed, yet again, just like at the beginning of my ministry in Thorncliffe Park, all the way through to this moment, the leadership, political leadership, saying thank you for your leadership in these organizations that are addressing these things. So yeah, oh yeah, well, we need Bill to come to give the spiritual and ethical dimensions, and then it gives you an opportunity to talk about who we are as human beings as we move into a very unknown future, and people valuing that, yearning for that, and so are our church people. And it's an opportunity that new leadership has sitting right in front of us.
So I've heard you say that this is a great time to be a church leader. We talk so much about the church in decline and irrelevancy and so on, but from your perspective, this is a great time to be a church leader.
Yeah, because the questions we're dealing with are fundamentally, who are we as human beings in the 21st century, and how are the ethical question, how are we to live together with respect in creation with all life? And how are we to do that? That's the ethical question. That's our turf. That's who we are. And so I believe that we need leadership in our churches who say that'll be at the center of our ministry as well. Because in cooperation with all the other groups that bring their gifts and so on to the table, and that's what we bring to the table. And one of the other exciting things about it is that in the path towards truth and reconciliation, I believe that one of the many things that Indigenous people bring to the table is their millennia-long history of living a form of the commons, living in a way in which everybody is in relationship with one another and cares for one another and is working together to build a community of love, of justice, and so on. Hey, that's the path we have to be on with Indigenous people. So these things are coming together, and I think society as well as specific groups who are trying to create change say we need the faith communities. We need that because we're fundamentally dealing not with just matters of the head either, or science. We're also dealing with matters of the heart. And we're dealing with the matters of who we are. That's the spiritual question. Well, what could be more exciting than that when society is looking for and almost demanding, we need your leadership. Come join the struggle. And you've got resources, you've got personnel, and you've got all kinds of the social gospel history among other examples. So let's get to work together. But that's what I would plea for and invite people who want to give leadership in the church. Don't be afraid. Be excited that we do have something critical to offer.
Indeed, and so going over this arc of your ministry again inspires me. You have been an inspiration to me and so many others. Your ministry and your passion and your engagement has really brought to life who we are as the United Church and what we can offer into the world. So thank you for that leadership.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to do this, and we're going to continue along this path together. And so the basic thing is, I think a number of people in the biblical story, including Jesus, I think probably, be not afraid. Be not afraid, for the Creator and the Creator's love is with us. Believe it and get on that path.
So that's the path we want to continue on with this legacy fund and that work of encouraging leadership both in the church and in the community. There's a number of these interviews. We did 4 interviews. You can see them on our website, ecocommoning.com, if you want to see the more extensive things. So thank you, Bill, for your courage, your leadership. Happy birthday today, and we invite your involvement in carrying this ministry forward. Thank you.
So great to see and hear from Bill and from you, Ted. We know you shared a lot. Our final speaker, Naheed Nenshi, is with us. He's just flown in from British Columbia. He served 3 terms, including navigating the flood in 2013. Bill always wanted to encourage his leadership on human rights, housing, and climate change. They shared a mutual passion for building the spirit of the city. We are so glad you're here. We have missed you. We give thanks for your hopeful, Naheed, we give thanks for your hopeful, thoughtful, passionate, and compassionate view of the city and this country and the world, and we look forward to welcoming you as the next Prime Minister of Canada.
One shouldn't say anything bad about a pastor in his own church, but really, John? Thank you, all friends. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, John. Thank you, Ted, for being here and giving us a little more of an insight into Bill. Listen, for the first time in my life, I'll be brief. For the first time in my life, I said, I will be brief, because I actually didn't know Bill as well as anyone else in the room did. But boy, did I know him. You know, I got the chance to meet Bill before politics, and certainly in my time in politics. And, you know, it will surprise none of you to know that he was a pretty feisty activist. And he knew very, very well that you couldn't say no to him, that you had to treat him with a certain modicum of respect. I mean, he's an older gentleman. He was the moderator of the United Church. He's a reverend. You got to be nice to him. He used that as a weapon. And he knew very well that he could walk into rooms that not everyone could walk into and say things that for others might be considered a radical thing to say. I didn't think they were particularly radical. You heard a lot of them just now in the conversation, that wonderful conversation that we just heard about the need to be not afraid, the need to actually understand that the sorts of things we're talking about when we talk about the social gospel, or when we talk about social justice more broadly writ, are kinds of things that are human, that are deeply embedded in who we are as human beings. And sometimes that's hard. The world right now, you know, a certain federal politician is fond of saying that everything feels broken right now. And I kind of hate that he took my line. I use it in a very different way than he does. But it is true. Many of us are exhausted. These times are difficult. Going through the last few years with the pandemic and the mental health crisis, facing economic injustice and inequity, understanding the environmental crisis, facing a reckoning in a way that many of us didn't think we would face because we thought maybe we'd already won that battle, but a reckoning on the issue of equity, understanding what it means to go from a pluralistic society, a multicultural society of which we are rightly proud, to a truly anti-racist society, of understanding what it means, as my friend Casey Eagle Speaker tells me, to go from reconciliation to reconciliation. And it makes a lot of us uncomfortable. We're pretty happy with this place. We're pretty proud of it, and we should be pretty proud of it. Generations of people have built an extraordinary place, the best place in the world in which to live. But we got a lot of work left to do. And maybe we're exhausted. Maybe we don't want to do that fight anymore. Maybe it's harder and harder and harder for us to reach for empathy. Because those people are crazy. They don't listen to reason. They're stuck in their own echo chamber. You can't talk to them. They want a very different society than we want. Now, you notice I didn't say who those people are. This is my favorite trick. I speak for a living these days. Who knew people paid you to talk? If I had figured that out years ago, George, if you had figured that out years ago, man, we'd be doing great. But I often talk about that, and then I say, okay, what were you thinking of when I said that? And some people think of sort of anti-vax people. Some people think of drag queens. But that's kind of the point, isn't it? That we've kind of moved to, and by the way, I don't actually equate those things. I should really point out that one extreme is folks who just want you to be nice to everyone, no matter how weird they are. And the other extreme is folks who, want to overthrow the government with violence. It's really not the same thing. But my point being, empathy is hard. And it feels hard right now. And, our political discourse is fractured and terribly broken. Many of us feel like we don't have a political home anymore. As you know, I wear purple every single day. I have for so long, because it's to remind us that it's not red and it's not blue, that we're not defined by our tribes, but we're defined by our humanity. But it doesn't feel like there's a lot of room for purple these days. And I can understand how frustrated we are. But at times like this, that's when we got to remember Bill. And we got to remember that feisty activism, that muscular activism, that activism based above all, and those of you who heard me talk before, you know what my favorite word is, one word in Sanskrit, that activism based in seva. Seva means service, it means selfless service. And I think now more than ever, we have the opportunity to fight hard to ensure that through our service, we're building that kind of community we need to build. People ask me, what have you been doing for the last 18 months since you've been out of office? And I'll tell you that when I left my old job, I left with a whole bunch of notes on my phone. One of the notes was movies and TV shows of the last 10 years that you might think about catching up on. Something called Game of Thrones. Another was books you've never read with links to the Calgary Public Library. And probably the most important one is, there's a hole in your roof. Literally, I don't mean that metaphorically. Repairs you really ought to be doing around the house. You'll be excited to know I've done none of those things over the last 18 months. I spend my days, like too many of us do, endlessly doom scrolling, but also thinking about what kind of a community we need to build and where we are and what we need to be able to do together. And I talk a lot about service, I talk a lot about seva, I talk a lot about all these crises hitting us all at the same time. But my hypothesis is this, and I think Bill would share it, and I hope you do as well, that precisely because everything is broken right now, everything feels hopeless. That actually means that we live in a moment of incredible opportunity and a moment of incredible creativity. The pandemic in particular has upended our assumptions of how our community works. So let's take advantage of that. I call it our wet clay moment. As an artist about wet clay, you got to mold it fast or it hardens. And I'll tell you, friends, there are many, many people trying to mold that clay for us. There are many, many people trying to build a community that might be a drawback to a mythical past that never really existed. Sometimes I get political on the pulpit. So I'll say, make America great again. For whom was it great before? Take back Alberta. From whom? It's a question that we rarely ask because the answers are bad. But I would argue to you that this moment, this wet clay moment, is a moment that calls us all to be not afraid. A moment that calls us all to build a better community than the one we've had. For the last 3 years, we keep hearing, I want to get back to normal. I don't want to go back to normal. Normal wasn't all that great for a lot of people. I want to go to something better. And I think that's our opportunity. So I was going to say, it's so fitting that we've got one last thing that we can do with Bill. I'm not going to say that, actually. I'm just going to say we've got one more thing we can do with Bill, because there may be more. But this fund, and particularly what this fund is about, building capacity in individuals in the Indigenous communities, building capacity in social organizations like this church, like the United Church, that's pretty exciting to me. And I think those are real examples of when we answer the question, if everything is hopeless, what can we do? This is the answer. Yeah, we need to elect better people. Yeah, we need to put pressure on our politicians and our corporations and everyone else in our community. Of course we need to do that. But we can all make change. Whether it's small change by donating and encouraging others to give to this legacy fund, whether it's bigger change, it's all seva, it's all service. And I think that's what Bill would have called us to do. And I'm thrilled that we're able to continue his legacy doing all of that today. So because I walked in just as Julie was giving us a fiery quote, I'll continue that theme a little bit with you. I love to quote this one quote from Dr. Martin Luther King. And remember Dr. King, we always say he said that the long arc of moral history bends towards justice. We never quote the second part of that, which is he didn't say it just happens. He said, if I'm paraphrasing, you got to grab the arc and bend it. And that's really what we're called to do today. So I'll leave you with this quote from Dr. King. Dr. King said, and I'm changing it a little bit, so sorry, Dr. King, but I think he'd appreciate the more inclusive change. But let me just say, as Dr. King said, now let us begin. Now let us rededicate ourselves to the long and bitter, but beautiful struggle for a new world. This is the calling of the children of God. And our brothers and sisters wait eagerly for our response. Shall we say that the odds are too great? Shall we tell them that the struggle is too hard? I think we all know what Bill's answer to those questions would be. And I hope that all of us will answer in the same way, that we'll continue to struggle, we'll continue the battle, because that beautiful new world is worth it. Thank you for remembering Bill.
Thank you, and thank you for coming from the airport to be with us here. I want to close by letting you know that, as you've heard, Bill lived life well, and he also died well. And some of that dying was being in the videos that Ted did, and I also had the privilege of pedaling my bike over to his house and to do 3 interviews, which I haven't done anything with yet. But in one of those, I asked Bill this question. I want to read his answer. I asked Bill, the United Church Creed, Bill, what line matters most to you? And I quote, well, they're all pretty good. But I suppose it's the words, we are not alone. We are not alone is how the creed begins. He paused. You know, love is expressed in thousands of different ways, but love is the core of our story, capital S. And it is the core concept of the biblical story. When you know you're not alone, then you trust love embraces all of life. So if you want to know who God is love. That's it. God is love. And when you know that, Bill said, then you have to do something. He continued, the earth is so precious and beautiful. This is a beautiful and precious gift God has given us. And then he paused and he said, so I say to you and to everyone, get off your ass, care for Mother Earth. And then he laughed full-bellied. And so in response, I say, may we get off our collective asses and be not afraid and donate to the Bill Phipps Fund and do something for Mother Earth and all its creatures in Bill's name today. Bill gave generously to so many places, and now it's our turn to do the same. Our closing video is one that Carolyn and Bill made. They made several videos during COVID on YouTube. Exercising with old people, protesting with old people, and one that has the most views is 15,000 so far, was camping with old people. And so I invite us to see this video to remember Bill and Carolyn so fully.
Oh my goodness, is Trump ever revolting? My goodness. Oh, God. Oh, and the only Canadian team left in the NHL is the Vancouver team. Jeez, what kind of news is this? I don't think I want this anymore. Go like that there.
Sick of that.
Let's do something else.
Okay.
What do you got?
I got a map.
A map. Hey, map of Alberta. What do you think of them berries? Look at that, okay. Oh, you got a bear buck. Well, let's see about the map of Alberta. Where do you want to go? Oh, here we go. I know. We're gonna go right over there. We're gonna go to Kananaskis. Oh, there's the picture. That's where we're gonna go, right there. And we're gonna camp right there.
Okay.
So all kidding aside, we feel very privileged to be out here in Kananaskis country in this beautiful campsite. And already today, we've seen mountain sheep as you come into the Peter Lougheed Park. And then later on, we saw a moose and her calf
right by the side of the road near the Upper Kananaskis Lake. And then while we were having dinner right here, just a few minutes ago, a coyote walked right through the woods, through the other campsite, and out watching, exploring the other campsites. So we feel very privileged to be here and to see these wonderful animals who are part of this place.
Let's have a toast.
All right.
Okay, and I'll invite Cheryl Gagnon and Grey Eyes to come forward for our closing song. Cheryl is a member of the Muskeg Lake Cree Nation, Treaty 6, Saskatchewan. As a Cree Métis woman, she has generously shares her learnings and teaching. Cheryl believes in sharing truth and living reconciliation as a mother and a grandmother, envisions a bright future sparkling with hope, love, and peace. Please, Cheryl.
Thank you so much. You'll have to excuse me, I'm a bit of a cliche. I'm an Indigenous person with a wounded knee. I had to throw that in there. Bill would have appreciated that. I am so grateful to have had Bill and Carol in my life. And Bill, to me, exemplified those 7 sacred teachings. Just like my skirt has 7 ribbons, Bill exemplified courage, honesty, humility, love and kindness, respect, truth, and wisdom. And I am grateful to Creator for having our paths crossed in such a good way. We are the ones that have been left behind, and we are the ones that are hurting. He's having fun up there, and he's showing up. Hey, Bill, glad you could join us. I want to share the Cree Healing Song with gratitude, with appreciation, with love. And that's why it's so important for us, because every day we have a choice to make. Do we choose to act out of fear or out of love? You can change the way you think by choosing love over fear. And Bill knew this. He got that. Thank you, Bill, for being my friend, my tag team partner, for opening doors for myself, for my daughter, for Indigenous people in this city, for opening hearts, opening minds, for welcoming us in spirit and in body. Thank you, Creator, for blessings received. I sing this song with joy. What joins us as two-leggeds, as only part of the relations on our planet, is that before we're even born, we have that vibration of life that we hear while we're in our mother's womb. That heartbeat. We all share that. Mother Earth, for the gifts of your bounty. Thank you to the gifts of our ancestors, the teachings of the medicine wheel in the 4 directions. Beloved Creator, we are small and weak. We need you to light us on this journey that is life, to guide us in a good way, to help us to help one another and ourselves. Beloved Creator, thank you for blessings received. Creator, let thy will be done. Yee! Hi, hi, hi! Thank you, John. Thank you. Hi, hi.
Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you, speakers and singers. I want to thank Cameron and Milad and Danielle, who are our tech people, making sure that people, please thank them. For the people who have been with us online around the world and you who are present to us, we trust that you'll offer a donation either to the box here, the box at the back, the pad at the back, or send a check to Hillhurst United Church with the Bill Phipps Legacy Fund, and we'll ensure you get a receipt. We would like you to stay for the food that Paul has generously shared with us and drink, and to be with one another. Will you please rise? I invite you to leave this place, to be not afraid, to love God, to love others, and in doing so, may the Spirit of God transform us and all of creation. Amen. Please continue the joyful celebration.